Hello viewer, welcome to today's lesson. So today we shall be looking at forces and movements. So let's take a look at forces and their everyday applications. So when you push or pull an object, the position of the object changes from one place to another. For example, when you push or pull a table in your class, the position of the table will change. This is called movement. For an object to be moved from one place to another, it needs to be pushed or pulled. We use force to move something away from us, that is push, and also use force to move something towards us, that is a pull. So we say a force is the push or pull on objects. So that is the definition of a force. So a force is a push or a pull on objects. So force can be measured in Newton. Alright, so let's take a look at the effects of force on objects. So force causes objects to move in different ways. The effect of force on an object can change the size of the object. It can also change the direction of the object. Force can even stop an object from moving. There are different types of forces we use in our daily lives. Some of these types of forces are elastic force, compressional force, frictional force, and magnetic force. So we have forces like elastic force, compressional force, frictional force, and magnetic. So in this lesson, we shall focus on two types of forces. These are the elastic force and compressional force. So when we say elastic force, what is elastic force? Elastic force is the force that is produced when an elastic material is stretched. It is also a force that allows an elastic material to return to its original shape after being stretched. Some examples of elastic materials are rubber bands, balloons, and then the catapult. So let's look at some everyday application of the elastic force. So elastic force can be very useful for other things in our everyday life. Do you use elastic force in any of these ways? Alright, so let's identify some of the applications of elastic force. So we have hairbands or ribbons used by girls to tie their hair. Ribbons are made from elastic materials. This allows them to stretch. Also, elastic materials are used in our dresses, especially on the waist. This is called the waistband. Catapult is a common example of an object which uses elastic force. So let's take a look at the other force, which is a compressional force. So compressional force is a force that is applied to press, squeeze, wring, squash, or twist objects to make them smaller in size. So it is a force that is applied to press, squeeze, wring, squash, or twist objects to make them smaller in size. For example, when you press a spring, its original length reduces. When the hand is released, the spring stretches back to its original form. When you also squeeze objects like the tennis ball, orange, or a balloon, you are applying compressional force. Alright, so let's take a look at some everyday application of compressional force. So compressional force is used in trapdoors. Springs are fixed in trapdoors to allow the door to open freely and close freely as the spring stretches. Compressional force is also used in spring beds. Most beds come with springs in them. As we sleep on the bed, the springs go down. When we turn up or get up from the bed, the springs return to their original position. Also, most children's playground toys come with springs that allow the toys to go up and down as they sit and ride. We also apply compressional force anytime we squeeze juice out of oranges, lemons, mangoes. We also apply compressional force to wring water out from our wet clothes. So these are some applications of the compressional force. Alright, so we've been able to identify an elastic force and then their applications in our everyday lives. We also talked about the compressional force and then the application of compressional force in our daily life. Alright, so this brings us to the end of the lesson.